Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the South Fulton Coalition's Town Hall tonight. We are pleased to feature District 2 candidate, Era Bedell. She is a City of South Fulton resident, and she is here to make the case tonight of why she should be elected as your next City Council representative for District 2. We will be joined tonight also by Doris Clark. Doris Clark is a resident of the City of South Fulton, and she lives in District 4. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Doris Clark, who will be moderating tonight. Doris, you have the floor. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Rashad, for inviting me to do this. And everyone that's going to join tonight, I'm quite sure it's going to be beneficial and informative. So I'm going to go ahead and Miss Dow, it's nice to meet you. And
Nice
I'm
to meet you.
interested, and I'm quite sure we're all excited to hear more about you. So can you just take a few minutes and tell us about your background? And also, I would like if you would share about your Fresh campaign platform.
Oh, absolutely. So yes, my name is Araba Dowell, and I have lived in South Fulton for the area for more than really almost 30 years. Uh, Originally, I lived in Putter's Village, which is by Danforth and New Hope Road, and now I'm living in Walden Park for about 20 years. My Fresh platform is really about narrowing the scope of why I'm running, and that's making sure our city is future ready with innovative ways of operating, attracting innovation in terms of companies, and it's making sure we're bringing experience to the fold to make sure that on day one we can get the work done. And smart growth, which is everyone uses that word, but what does that really mean? And I'll tell you that as someone with an economic development background, it has a very specific meaning. It's not just about having growth for the sake of it, where we're thinking about all the things we want. It's really about thinking long term about what we want for our city. What do we want to brand our city as? What is the culture of this city and what we want to attract? And at the end of the day, what actually inspired me to run had to do with health. I had an incident myself. I've had some seniors in my family that live in the area who had some health issues, and the closest hospitals were Crawford Long, the Douglasville Hospital. So I want to make sure that in this medical desert, that it's the South Fulton County area, that this city is a loud voice to push for emergency medical resources and a world-class hospital, since we were next to the world's busiest airport. So
Okay,
that's what Fresh stands for: future ready, experience, smart growth, and healthy solutions.
okay, because I was like reading your webpage and things like that. So I want to piggyback off of that. I don't know whether you've had time. Have you looked at our city's strategic plan for?
Yes, in fact, I was a part of the meetings most recently at looking at what we want for the city. So they had various sessions where
Right.
they, briefed us on it. Also looking at the plan before and where we are today. So that was a very important exercise for me, because having come in from economic development, part of what we did is create strategic plans for DeKalb County, for example, right?
Okay.
And really like the fact that in my role, my responsibility was to report out the progress of said strategic plan. And it wasn't just at the end of said term, it was regularly keeping, constituents and elected officials informed of our progress with our plans. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So speaking of progress, so I went back and I looked at the 2020 to the 2023 focus areas, right? So they had 5 goals then, right? So for the 2025, 2029, there's 4 there. We have here, the first one is enhance government efficiency and productivity, increase community collaboration, and improve quality of life. The third is enhance the city's financial stability and economic diversification. And 4 is strengthen and expand infrastructure to support sustainability. Now, and these are carryovers. So,
Yes.
so what areas do you think that the city has excelled in, and what areas do you think we need improvement? as far as focusing on the goals?
Well, you know, I'll tell you this, from a standpoint of just being positive. We're a new city, 8 years, and I think in the 8 years, I'm most proud of, progress we've made across the board. I'm not going to nick anyone on any one thing, but we could do more. That's the reason why I'm running. Can no longer call ourselves young. At 8 years old as a city, there's more to do. But I'll tell you this, where I think we could have done better is with economic development. And I'm aware that because we've had a kind of turnover in that area that's kind of been problematic. But because of my background, I'm biased in that regard. Because at the end of the day, for the quality of life that we want, economic development is the driver of that. We need corporate revenue, right? I love small business. I'm a small business, and that's important to have the diversity where that's concerned. So I'm glad that that's a focus of our city. But at the end of the day, we need a major corporate headquarters here. We need higher wage jobs. I tell folks that, I can't believe that for my child that the only option is Wendy, Walmart, or a warehouse, right? There's greater. We're next to the world's busiest airport. And as a marketer, coming from economic development, I'll say that over and over. That's a drumbeat you'll hear from me a lot. I know at a state level how many jobs there are available. There are companies all the time looking at our state, and we need to be in those rooms trying to attract them here. We have everything that they want. We have a city that's lush and green from an environmental standpoint. We have a lot of sports complexes around. Our neighborhoods are beautiful. And again, we're next to 285, 20. We have all the makings to generate what we need. So I feel like if we could do better on anything, economic development would have been a better one. I'm proud of the growth, but there's that. I think what I'm most proud of is what I'm seeing now with infrastructure. I'm seeing that come about more now as of late. I'm loving what I'm seeing with the hyper growth that we've had. We've grown quite a bit as a city. And so with growth, if you don't get that proper infrastructure in, you're going to have congestion on Campbellton, right? You're going to have congestion on Cascade. You're going to have, congestion at Camp Residence because there's so much growth. If we're going to have all these residences coming, we need jobs for those people closer to home. We need diverse shopping and restaurants closer to home, right? And we need the infrastructure to support them.
Okay. Now, I think it's important to have a realistic conversation because, and it's not to bash anyone or focus on, negative things, but just focus on things realistically, right? And so I also looked at our values, right? So the values that they have honesty and integrity, respect, service to others, efficiency, and environmentalism, open-mindedness, passion, and positivity. So, do you think that we are working in the right direction with this? Have we hit the mark on it, or do we need work in these areas as well? Because to me, it needs to be more than words on a piece of paper. I mean, these things need to be implemented.
Of course, it's kind of difficult to legislate to some degree people's personalities and behaviors, and I can't speak to them, but I can speak to this. My history of working with people is top notch. I collaborate well with others. So those values that you spoke of, those are what have driven my business and my community involvement. I'll say this, I know we make the news a lot about any number of things, but I always govern and lead from the standpoint that children are watching. Youth are my platform and priority, and I'm always mindful. I see my dad is on the line here, Glendale, and I still operate even though at my age. I believe that how we represent ourselves as leaders is very vital to how we attract people here to live, people here to do business. So all those factors in terms of values, I'm looking for in a leader. I'm looking for in colleagues. I'm looking for in business. So I hope I answered your question, but I'll tell you this. You're right, based on paper, no. But by electing the right people who are collaborative, who do have, even if you don't know much about environment, right? You are willing to work with the partners who show up to city council meetings, who are passionate about it, and listen and synthesize what you learn, come up with the data, and make some smart decisions. I think we can't have pride and ego interrupt real progress. We have to be vulnerable and say, hey, look, I don't know everything, but let's have a chat. Let's talk about it. I'll say that has been the winning strategy that I've used throughout my career. I learned it early on when I was working at Bank of America when we were under fire for redlining. So the
Mhm.
most important thing that we did was make ourselves vulnerable, put ourselves out there. We took a little beating, we kept on going, but we listened to the faith-based organizations. We listened to the community leaders and the businesses. We took back what we learned and came back with a plan, returned that plan to them to make sure that they were good, and we kept them informed of how we were doing. Those
Mhm.
same values have kept in every career leadership, community activity that I've ever done, and I will bring that to South Fulton.
Okay, just a couple more questions, and then we'll open it up to everyone here who's interested in hearing what you have to say as well. I found that resident engagement is just, it's almost, it doesn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
And I know when we first became a city and they were having meetings over at Stonewall Tail, the room used to be full, right? So like
Yeah.
now, very seldom people, and I've talked to people, various, like when I'm out or my neighbors or whatever, and some people have that, they think, oh, well, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. So my question is to you is, how would you get residents re-engaged?
That's a great question, Doris. Let me tell you, I have been knocking on doors throughout this city for so many months, and many of the people I'm engaging feel exactly what you're describing. There are many reasons why they are not showing up, and some of them are very valid, and we have to respect it. Some of these are moms who are trying to get their kids to events. They may have just gotten home from a long drive from Sandy Springs, right? There's any number of reasons, but one of the things that I would like to do and see is ways to meet them where they are. I know that I say this, we have all of these HOAs, we have these great community clubs, really working more with those agencies that are already on the ground and connected with those residents and keeping them informed. Just doing more of it. I know our elected officials do that. They work with them, they report, they meet with them for town halls and keeping them up to date on progress. But I think we need to find systems of doing more of that. I like the idea, and I think someone had mentioned this about even an app, right, that they opt into that keeps them alerted on the things that are important to them. So if health is important to you, you will get updated with alerts. Hey, there's a walk with this council person, or if it's something about hunger or homelessness, whatever it is, beyond Nextdoor being a platform, having our own city one where we keep people informed. Innovation is key there. The other thing that concerns me, Doris, is I am noticing a strong kind of apathy among the youth. And I think
Mhm.
once we've spoken with them about why this work matters, they perk up. I'll give you an example. I was in Starbucks, and these kids they're not kids, they were managers, they were all meeting. And I told them, that I was running, and they didn't really understand who the candidates are across the board, any of candidates. I don't care if it's state, county, whatever. And they didn't understand why it was important to know. And they said often they vote on whoever their parents tell them to vote on. Some of them even said they put the first name on the list, right? That's
Mhm.
common. And I heard some adults say that too, right? So when I said, hey, what's important to you? They were like, well, I don't want to live in my parents' house. And I said, well, your parents don't want you in their house either. So what if I told you could elect someone who could help attract jobs here where you could work closer to home and you could have your own place? That there are ways that you could work with elected officials to get down payment assistance for young professionals, right? That you can get your own home and be your own homeowner. There's so many different things. And some said, oh, well, there's nothing for me to do. I was like, that's what an elected official does. They're an ambassador for your city. They can help attract the right company so you'll have lifestyle things to do. And they never put it in the context of what they want and what matters to them and how it connects to the people that they vote for. So I think to your point, meeting them where they are in these not just holding events for them, but meeting them where they are today, where they gather,
Mhm.
and educating them on why this is important to them, that they stay engaged.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And another question that really kind of ties into that. Like, I don't know whether you've seen like sometimes on Nextdoor or whatever, and they were saying, they focus on the seniors, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think it should be balanced. And what are your thoughts about having like like a intergenerational programs or generations united, something that would bring the young adults, the seniors, because we can all learn from each other and encourage each other to grow, tell them about opportunities, tell them about life. What do you think about having programs like that that brings all
I love
generations together?
I love the idea of programs like that, and I'll tell you why. I come from, again, a parent who created a similar um, resource in Clayton County. It was called Youth Empowerment Project, and he
Mhm.
served the whole family. So it could be everyone from the nursery school to the Georgia funded pre-K to the job workforce training to having the seniors come in and watch the babies and tutor. So it brought up everyone together, and I was quite
Exactly.
inspired by that. Yeah, and it worked, and it
Exactly.
worked for years. My father's on the line. We had it for over 20 plus years, and that's where I cut my teeth on kind of community impact because we work with Department of Justice, Department of Labor, with the Department of Education. We work with all the groups to help with that. And in
Mhm.
addition, we got Home Depot to build the playground. So there are corporations that will invest in your city and in a nonprofit to help bring that together. They want to see that. And when they look at, I'll bring it back again, economic development, when companies look at areas, they want to see that. They want to see that cohesiveness. I'll tell you this, I haven't kind of boldly told some of the ideas that I've had, but I'm doing it here because I'm crazy about Rashad, right? One of the things that I love is that we have all these subdivisions, right? Do you know
Mhm.
what subdivisions do most days? They sit empty. Do
Mhm.
you know what can be in those those clubhouses? Senior citizens who are retired tutoring young people.
Mhm.
Do you remember growing up when you would be dropped off at that senior citizen's house who babysat you or tutored you? I have one that tutored my son. It's an empty space. And
Yeah.
we pay all this money and working with the HOAs to say, hey, is it possible that we could create programming where if parents are in need, they need help, there are people who are available to do it. So we do a
Yeah.
lot of senior programs. I can't believe that I've been approached by seniors who are nurses who they don't want to retire completely. They want to still help. So they could be a resource in some way we're in a medical desert. They want to help. So I would love the idea of us being bold as a city and piloting something different. You did not hear this on any forum, I promise you, about
Mhm.
pulling together this connected community concept where we work with intergenerational folks to help them academically, help them behaviorally, help them health-wise. We could do this if we really wanted it. And what cost would it be? I'll give you one more. When I talked to some businesses, they said that they would be sponsors for some of those programs.
Mhm.
Businesses here said they would do that. So it's
Mhm.
just a matter of being more creative and inventive. So again, if you hear anybody say that, they didn't. This is me.
Right.
But that's a long-winded answer to your question.
No, that's okay. I enjoy because I think it's important and it really needs to be a focus because
Yeah.
it's so much to offer between each generation. You know what I'm saying? And to me, there's strength and love and power in all of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's important. Okay. So
And I'll add that I'll add this, and I apologize, the rec centers too, partnering with the Parks and Rec as well to do it, because when I was growing
mhm.
up, yeah, I know we don't have this, but there were buses that would take us to the rec center because transportation was an issue in the community when I was growing up in LaGrange. So let's just be
Mhm.
inventive of how we can get kids together um, and build these memories and resources.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then the thing is, too, I think another important point about that, sometimes when you get them involved, that'll make them want to stay. You know what I'm saying? Or even if they go off to college or whatever, they'll come back because they're invested and they've
Right.
learned a lot about the value of community. And I think that's part of what we're missing. Some of the young people, there's a lot of reasons. What do we really have here? What are we offering them? You know what I'm saying? So hopefully that's something like I said, if you're elected, you could just bring that up, bring that up also.
I would
Okay, a
love
few
to
more
do
things.
that. That's what I do. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I want to know your thoughts about how, okay, how we can stop being viewed as 7 different cities. Because when we're on the news, whether it's positive or negative, they don't say District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They say the city of South Fulton. So if you're elected, how can you get like the other council members on board of like, this really needs, okay, we really need to unify and not be viewed as 7 different cities.
Right. I agree. I'll tell you this. One of the superpowers that I've had in my career is collaboration. And, not just because of the trainings that I've had in it. My background is communications, crisis communications. Collaboration is the heart of that, right? You got to be able to be effective a communicator, you understand how to listen. So I think
Mhm.
a convening is key. You've heard it before. There has to be a relationship there. There has to be an intention to want a relationship, and it's not lost on me that trust is at the heart of it. Trust is at the heart of it. You have to trust your partners. We're not going to win as a city if we're not cohesive, especially at a time such as this. Right now, with what's going on in our country, this is a time when we pull together, and not just
Mhm.
within our districts or within our city, but with other cities, our neighboring cities. I'll
Right.
tell you this, I travel quite a bit, and I just was on a plane, and someone from up north were on either side of me, and they referenced the entire region. So they don't, our city, South Fulton, from Palmetto, Chattahoochee. So we're all branded by what we all do. So it is important, not just within our city of South Fulton, right? That we
Mhm.
also be good neighbors. And I was told that there is actually an organization that exists where, um, I don't know if it's a South Fulton Municipal Association. I think I heard the mayor mention that that exists where they rotate with the various cities. Um, I'd like to see more efficacy behind that. Like what, just like you mentioned the values earlier,
Yes.
I'd like to see how those values are put into action. So if you're saying that we are a city of civility, I want you to be able to demonstrate it. I want you to be able to tell that story. Here's how we're doing it. So for me, I can only govern me. Doris, I try to bring levity to everything that I do. In fact, I've been coached to hold some of that back because I'm a bit of a comedian. But I'm always going to choose joy. I'm always going to choose
Mhm.
joy. There's enough out there right now that we are challenged by that we absolutely need to work closer together. And I see that with having lunches with them, coffees with them. Does that make, the stuff that you would have to do in your day-to-day job, right?
Mhm.
If you have
Mhm.
people that you may not agree with or understand or get along, you're going to be charged with getting that right and get that goal or objective met in your day job. That needs to hold
Mhm.
true with our city.
Okay. 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 And then one more.
Mhm.
Then I'll let her open it up. Now, okay, if elected and you take the seat in January, right? I'm quite
Mhm.
sure probably at some point in time within your first 30, 60 days or whatever, you may have to vote on zoning issues, right?
Mhm.
And so I keep hearing them say, the council, we need density. Okay, so do you have a clue about how much density is needed, and do you understand everything around zoning?
I am not an expert on zoning, admittedly, but I will say that when I talk about smart growth, it's really about taking a look at our full city, right? Particularly when you're in economic development, taking a look at our full city, looking at the areas that are prime for development, that are publicly owned, privately owned, and then just creating a heat map of opportunity. That's one, right? Second thing you do is you actually determine based on the feedback from our people, we put the pins on this when we were doing the strategic plan exercise, we put the pins on the areas where we think bicycle paths should be and all of that, right? They gave us the feedback. So synthesizing this heat map, with what the desires of the residents are and coming up with a proposal back to them that says, based on your feedback, it seems like most of you want this to be a health corridor, similar to Stockbridge. So then take that heat map and then again, intentionally trying to attract corporations into those areas, to those zones that are appropriate. If it's zone agricultural, there are things that you could do that are health and wellness related, or farmers market type things there, right? Just you have to be more intentional when you're talking about smart growth and zoning and land use and things like that. And I don't know that we're quite there yet. I'll tell you why, because we don't have many major corporations right outside of the world's busiest airport. We have them coming to Douglasville, we have them coming to Fayetteville, our surrounding, but not here. And it's just a matter of looking at this heat map of opportunity and listening to the people. And based on our current zoning, where do we want those things to be that won't be congested with traffic, that will cause disruption in people's quality of life? You know, it's not about just, oh, we got this company, we're going to just put it there. And then the people around it will go, that may not work. It's about making sure the streets are conducive for all the traffic that may come with that associated company. It's thinking through those simulations. And now you don't even have to use your brain. There's a machine learning to help you kind of simulate, hey, does it make sense to be there? You can do forecasts. Data drives strong decision making. Anyone who's doing a growth plan knows that. Let the data drive you. And then listen to your people. For example, I live in Walden Park. I don't know if this is private land behind me, what have you. It may not be a good idea to put a Quick Trip behind us, but it may be a good idea to put a walkable path that you could walk to a coffee shop like you would in Roswell. We just have to think it through and make sure that the infrastructure supports it. That's the other thing that I'm learning. You know, we talk about density, we talk about growth, but is our infrastructure in a place for us to sustain that? So it's more than just density. It's more than just attracting companies for revenue. It's really about thinking about 20, 30 years out and how this is going to impact residents.
Okay. And so when you say attracting companies, I looked at your Instagram page, right? And so I saw pictures on there, and it may have been some years back. Like you had been down to, was it Australia? I think the picture was. You travel internationally.
I travel internationally, yes. I've traveled with the National Bar Association to the largest Black Bar Association, 75,000 members. I attended with their leader, with some elected officials a few years ago to Nigeria and Abuja and Lagos, and met with heads of state and leaders. I've been to Cape Town most recently. I was there with Mayor Andre Dickens. We're looking at arts and film and culture and how we can bring more of that business here. Australia, New Zealand. So I travel quite a bit, but it's both personal, but it's also professional, you know, building relationships with folks because, hey, look, I'm going to tell you, wherever I have been around the world, and I've been everywhere, I've been to Antarctica, right? Wherever I've been around the world, there, I can tell you, the Chinese are, particularly the continent of Africa, there's strong, healthy development by Chinese in that country. Like they're building hospitals, they're building streets, they're building the infrastructure, the innovation. So we have to look at ourselves more as a global city. Again, we're right next to the world's busiest airport. My push is for a healthcare corridor because medical tourism will never go out of style because people will always be born. People always need to be, have their health maintained. So there could be changes in all kinds of companies. Home Depot may change, Chick-fil-A may change, Walmart may change. But what's not going to be changing is that people will be born and will need health care. So having people who can fly in to our world busiest airport, have health services right here in our city, and then hop back in a plane rather than drive 45 minutes, for example, to MD Anderson, that's attractive to me. That's a long-term proposition. And what happens is right around that hospital, if we can get it, and people will say, that's not the job of a city council person. You're absolutely right. But it is a job of a city council person to be a loud voice in the room with the county folks and the state folks and all the healthcare providers to say, here's what my people have expressed. We're a medical desert. We need the support. We need emergency medical services. Recognize that what's happening in Union City is a great gift, but we can't take crumbs. We cannot take
Mhm.
crumbs. We have
Mhm.
enough density in terms of population in the South Fulton County area to offer it, and we have the space in the city of South Fulton where it could thrive.
Mhm. Yeah, because that was my question.
So,
Since you travel, what do you think there are opportunities for our city, business opportunities internationally?
Well, I
Yeah.
like the idea that when I've traveled, many of the companies that I've met with have been in the tech space. And what I like
Mhm.
about it is that the technology companies don't require necessarily these big, massive buildings because we are a
Mhm.
bedroom community, right? We have a nice field. We're not necessarily these high-rise companies. They're tech companies that are working on things that are global, and they are looking just for a space, where their people may travel quite a bit because when you're in tech and innovation, your work is global. So many of them are in the tech, and you could be financial tech, health tech. It's a lot of tech because the future is innovation. So when I think about our city and those companies in those places, it's really, but I'm biased because I sought out companies that are in tech and innovation. There are probably plenty of
Mhm.
others, but for me, when I think about the young people I talk to and they say they don't want to stay in this area, they want to move to the city because of the transportation options, they can walk to places where that suits their lifestyle. Attracting companies that are in tech and innovation, naturally you'll get that. You'll see how with Porsche
Okay.
when they set up, right? You saw the things that have evolved since then around Porsche and
Mhm.
Hayfield. But when
Mhm.
I travel, those are the types of companies, the tech and innovation.
Okay. All right, I'm done. I'm quite sure people want to ask questions.
I'm so
Thank you
sorry.
so much. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
Thank you,
yeah.
Doris.
So thank you so much. Now, there is a question from Jane Williams. Miss Williams, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And hello, Miss Arable Dow. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Jane. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Thank you all so much for this opportunity and thank you for agreeing to come, Arable. So let me ask you this. Well, first of all, I agree with what you all said about the council meetings. Miss Clark, those meetings when Emma Darnell was the councilwoman, they used to be packed. You couldn't even get in the door. They were so packed. And so I believe location matters. I believe that Emma Darnell brought a sense of caring, compassion, empathy with her. And we were allowed to speak on whatever we felt necessary when we were there at those council meetings, okay? So that's my 2 cents. Anywho, Miss Dow, what would your first 100 days look like if you are elected?
So my first 100 days would absolutely be, um, naturally we have the onboarding as
Mhm.
elected officials. So there's that. The second one would be to get to know my council people, right?
Okay.
I want them to understand, uh, what I would like to do with the city. I would like to listen to them because they have the
Mhm.
institutional knowledge, those who are not running currently, and those who may or may be new to the roles. Is the possibilities. I want to get to know them. And I like the idea of us convening and talking about a forward plan together. In a couple years, we're going to be celebrating our 10-year anniversary. I like the
Mhm.
idea of those first 100 days talking about what do we want to be perceived as as a city and how are we going to actually get it done? How are we going to tell the story better? How are we going to work better together? What does that actually look like? So that's two. The third one is really looking at some of the things that the neighbors have told me that have been on their mind, without interfering with staff. That's very important. Um,
Mhm.
Part of my job is due diligence. You can understand and learn from staff without interfering. Because if the constituents are coming to me and asking questions, I need to understand them. So part of that is onboarding is going a little bit deeper. I'm already doing that. I've already started having conversations with some of them, which is why I'm not one of those who will go out and speak on what's not happening and what is happening, because I've actually spoken to them, so I know what's in progress. Um, and thirdly, economic development is at the heart of everything. We have a lot of major projects happening. So a priority to me is to start being that ambassador. And I've already started doing that as well all year. Anywhere I go, I talk to restaurant owners I've known them for years and ask them questions about what would it take for you to look at us? Just synthesizing what their feedback is. And so those are the three things: onboarding, getting familiar with the terrain, where the opportunities to improve are. And then lastly, making sure what worked well, we continue to do, and what
Mhm.
we may need to shave, we do, right? I just want to make sure that we have what we call continuity of work, so that people don't feel disenfranchised, because we do a lot of great work in the city.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And for our audience, if you would like to ask a question, please use the reaction button and raise your hand, and we will acknowledge you. Now, Ms. Dow, you had mentioned about getting us out of the healthcare desert. What thoughts do you have about attracting healthcare workers to South Fulton so that they can fill these healthcare roles that may be coming in the near future? I know that we're
Yeah.
supposed to be getting a emergency room provided by Grady, but if we were able to attract a hospital to come here, what thoughts do you have as far as attracting those healthcare workers and also not only attracting them but retaining those healthcare workers here in South Fulton as well?
Great question. A few things. I don't know if you all realize this, but we have a lot of people in the healthcare industry that live in our city. A lot of them. In Walden Park alone, when I hit every street, there are nurses, doctors. So we have a lot already. That's one. But in terms of attracting them, one of the things what we did, and you've seen this in the city of Atlanta, you've seen it in other areas, that we incentivize police officers to live in certain areas, right? There were incentives with home ownership to do it. Same with teachers. There are even programs for teachers. I think healthcare workers deserve the same. So finding ways to incentivize, whether it's doctors, nurses, you name it, to come here. And not only just to work, but to set up shop, right? What I was told with the Union City freestanding emergency room, that they're going to build in the second phase medical practices around it, right? And then there's a third phase that I think will be closer to our city that's coming. And I was also told, and I don't think it's private knowledge anymore, that there is talk of a hospital in the next few years. I don't know if you all had heard about that. So where that's going to be, where they're looking at that being, not sure, but I have made the push to with a meeting with our Chairman Pitts, that City of South Fulton seems prime for that. And so when attracting them, just incentivizing them to live here with, down payment assistance programs, making sure the area where we ultimately put these medical facilities is also prime for residential development as well. I don't think it'll be a hard sell, though. I know for a fact that we're having rapid growth in the city of South Fulton because people want to live here. In spite of what you may think of even with the news, we have grown quite a bit. People want to live here, but they naturally want to live closer to where they work. So just thinking about the live, work, play, mixed use living, where walkable spaces, bicycle paths. They want areas where they could have a very much a great quality of life. So we want to make that available to them.
Thank you so
I don't know if
much.
that answered your question, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That did answer my question. Now, we do have a question in the audience from Lynn Reed. You have the floor. Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rashard. Hi, Ms. Dow, how are you?
How are you?
Good. Well, hanging in there with these allergies. So my question to you there's a lot of work that the council and the mayor do in these positions. Do you believe that these positions should be full-time positions as opposed to part-time like they are today?
Oh, that's a really good question. I wasn't even prepared for that one, Lynn. I'll say this, I'm a small business owner, and part of my decision to run now is because I control my day. And from what I've heard consistently among all the council people, they are proclaiming that this feels more full-time to them in their roles in terms of the demand. How that will work, I don't know. What I'd like to do is examine if that exists with other cities and in any way that's similar in scale as our city. But taking it to full time has cost implications too. And I don't know if we're quite there yet. I'd like to, the idea of, evaluating where that exists and the efficacy of it, right? And the cost implications of it. Because right now, citizens right now are trying to figure out, hey, how are we paying for, the things that we're currently getting if we expand it to full time, which would be great. I wouldn't turn that down. But at the end of the day, if we work more cohesively with each other, if we work more collaboratively with each other, it may not feel like full time because what is it? They said a rising tide floats all boats. So part of the heavy lift is, working closer together could alleviate some of that. Not all. I would say that part of it being a new city, Lynn, is there's a lot of heavy lift on the front end that makes it feel full time. But once we get to a good rhythm and we have the right systems in place, everything is moving in a good direction, it may not feel as much as a full-time role.
Okay, and so I did have a part two to the question. You might have partially answered it. It sounds like you're a
Mhm.
very busy person. Sounds like you travel a lot. And I've been following the council meetings and trying to attend as many as I can. So my question to you is with the amount of time that's probably required in this position, what is your strategy to ensure that you are available, the citizens feel represented, and that you're there for us, considering that this is pretty time consuming and you have, your stuff you're doing on the side?
Well, you would be surprised at what I'm doing on the side. I I serve on quite a number of boards. I have my own small business, and but we get it done. I'll say my travel schedule is dictated by me. Where there's an opportunity to network and learn, I raise my hand and hop in somebody's luggage and travel with them. I'm not an attorney, but I've been on business mission trips with two different organizations, Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys to Morocco, and like I said, MBA to Nigeria. Not an attorney, but have the trust of that group to accompany me because they know that I am a collaborative person. So to answer your question, I control my schedule. I'm at that stage in my career. Uh, Before that, I worked full time and periodically, so not as much control in terms of balancing. But right now, I I chart my own schedule. In that role, I would prioritize this work, and I'm financially in a place where I can do that. I have a great support system, and so, yeah, the time is now. My son is out of high school, and so there's not driving him to, I hear my husband driving him to basketball things. The time is ripe right now. I went to school for this, by the way. Didn't mention this earlier. I went to Emory for political science and government and international. Inspired to do so because my dad and my mom is a Fulbright scholar in politics and government. And so this is not something new to me. I have roots that go back to Emory with politics and government. So I've been very intentional about my time throughout my career to do this work, and I will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I just wanted to piggyback off of the question regarding the full-time versus part-time. You had mentioned about doing an analysis on if you could do the job full-time or if you could do it part-time. But what about just working within the confines of the current charter? Do you think that will be problematic for you to just do the job that the charter tells you to do, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I think part of the uh, challenge here is that when you look at the charter and what is expected of from a council standpoint, I don't know that work would require full-time in terms of a 40-hour week. I do, but again, I am speaking from the standpoint of not being in that role, in those shoes. I will say I've heard on many occasions in city council meetings and town halls from each of the council members that it feels very full time. So from the standpoint of the charter, I'm speculating that part of that feeling of it being full time is because it's a new city, and anytime you're building a house versus renovating it is far more work involved with the bill than a Reno, right? Well, it feels like that sometimes, but so I'm challenged to say yes or no based on the charter, because I don't know if part of that rigor that they went through is because it was a new city and then them trying to get their sea legs, right? Trying to get it right, understand what the needs of the residents are, trying to work within the budget, trying to understand what they can and cannot do. So that's a tricky question because I really don't, I can't say one definitively if the charter is at issue. Or, I just don't. I'm speculating.
Thank you so much for that. Now, next question comes from Patricia. Patricia, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Patricia.
Okay, hi, Ms. Dowell. Good evening, everybody. I want to talk about impact fees. I've been watching all these podcasts and I hear a lot about, what would you do about impact fees? And I'm like, well, let me do some research on the impact fees. And this is going to be more or less your thought process, but I'm going to spill it out real quick. Impact fees are impact fees are charges on a new development that fund capital improvements and facility expansions such as roads, schools, water systems to accommodate new growth. In Georgia, the Development Impact Fee Act governs these fees, requiring that they be proportionate share of the cost for public facilities and to be calculated based on service areas and adopted service levels. Fees are typically collected during the permitting process, often before construction, and must be used for new facilities and not address existing deficiencies. Now, from what I understand, the city of South Fulton is in the process of developing its impact fee ordinance, having recently completed an impact fee study to determine appropriate fee levels, which would be calculated based on a approved methodology. And once the study is finished, a comprehensive plan will then be put in place. The city can officially now then adopt its impact fee ordinance. My question is what the hell took the city so long to establish this? Second, looks like a lot of lost revenue. And I think we can clear up the perception that it's not should we or could we, it's why the hell we ain't. So what is your field process thought on that moving forward, considering the fact that we're waiting on a fee ordinance now?
Well, look, right now we have so much planned projects right now where those impact fees would help alleviate some of that burden from our budget. So I'm not sure why the delay. Again, we're 8 years old as a city, and
Thank
yeah, we're 8 years old as a city, and so with that ordinance, so I'm clear on your question. Is your question why did it take them so long to do it, or what you feel do you feel that there is a threat to the delay in the ordinance? I'm trying to get clarity. I apologize.
Yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is the fact that you're right, we're 8 years old. Okay, I'm done with we're a new city. All of
Yeah.
this should have been kicked out the door day one. And it appears that we've had road improvements, we've had a lot of things going on these past 8 years, and it seems like we've lost a lot of revenue. And
Yeah.
I just want to know what your thought process. I know I heard that you said that you got some economic development background. This
Well,
must be addressed moving forward quickly.
yeah, agree. And so I'll tell you this, with some of the development that is coming, there is an opportunity there for us to do that. I'll say this, we also had something, I don't know if you're familiar with, that are called clawbacks, right? Where if there were certain commitments that those developers made that they did not make good on, that we could claw back on some of the incentives that we provided to them. So where the impact fees are concerned, I am absolutely you know, supportive of us making sure we collect any fees that could help our city and relieve the tax burden from us. To your point, I'm not sure why it didn't happen day one, outside of the fact that we were a new city, and you know, there were many priorities thrown at them, and I'm careful not to, you know, judge them in that moment, because I think many of them were first-time elected officials, so they were probably struggling with what to prioritize. But then we create a strategic plan that looks out, you know, a few years, and we know that we want certain development, and that may be the time that we re-raise the concept of, hey, we need impact fees, the impact fee ordinance done. I don't know if that, I don't know what the prioritization was that caused it to be now versus a few years ago. That is happening now. And I apologize if that doesn't answer your question, but I think at the end of the day, if it's happening now, good. We need to, as citizens, stay on it, as we have with other things that have been coming to City Council, and make sure that we are clear on the details of that ordinance, right? And where the money is allocated, right? I think that's the next important point, the allocation of said funds. Where does it, where can it go for improvements? So, yeah.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah,
Apologies for
thank you. No, yeah, I just needed to, and and if you win the seat, that'd be something that, you know, we're
Day
gonna have
one
to really
priority.
take a hard look at. Like you say, we're 8 years in, and then we're gonna be 10 years old and 12 years old, and this city is growing like out of its pampers really, really fast. And this is a potential revenue fees that we really need to be, we really need to be locking in on.
Yes, no, of course. Any fees outside of me getting pulled over, I'll take it.
Yeah,
You know, I'll take it.
exactly.
But yeah, any because all of it ends up benefiting everybody, even the developer,
Right.
right?
Right.
If we have stronger infrastructure, if we have better streets, we attract more people living there, better quality of workers, it all cycles back. So we got to look at things differently, right? As long as it's not just egregious and exorbitant, and there is these guardrails, you know, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I have another question. Can I go for my second?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I don't want to be pegged for, I think it was a 2023 audit for 2024. It's on, you know, it's on YouTube. The mayor posted it to his page and everything. And it revealed that the city was not properly diversifying their bank accounts. And there was potentially $1 million, millions that could have been made off of interest, off of our revenue. And once again, and being a, being a finance kind of person, I'm like, wow, here we go again, lost revenue. I mean, what in the world is going on? And then you spoke about, you just spoke about having people in leadership that have some skill, some experience, some background that can facilitate these types of things. Because like I said, and like you've said, we are 8 years old, and and we've really got to grab hold of all this potential revenue that we could be getting onto. What is your thought about the fact that we missed more interest revenue, and the audit, from what I understand, there were some things that were late being submitted to the state. Budgets were late, things that were submitted that weren't submitted. And even to this day, I think there's some paperwork hasn't been submitted on a timely basis. What is your thought about that moving into the seat?
Well, let me hit it on 3 points. One, I do agree, having people in place who, if they don't have a financial background, they are intentional about working with folks who do and understand fiduciary trust. So when you are working with taxpayer dollars, of which as elected officials, it's our dollars too, right? You want to make sure that those people are making data-informed decisions. That's one. And not, I don't know, again, I can't, speculate on drove them to not get those dollars or because me, I'm gonna collect. I'm gonna collect from my cousin as fast as I collect my clients, right? But you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit, right? You
Yeah.
have to understand this money. You almost have to change your mindset that, I'm not an elected official, I'm chasing money from a cousin, right?
Yeah.
Or you just, because this money is going to fuel progress. And if you prioritize the money, because the money collected helps pay for the projects, that helps keep it top of mind. Because I think we feel good about doing events and programs and things like that, which feel good. It makes the citizens feel good, but they cost money. So at the end of the day, we need to step back from an eagle's view and go, where are we leaking? And I can tell you, I know that we had a lot of turnover, right? We had turnover with staff and we had multiple with city managers and economic development. So I don't know if there could be what the reasonings were that happened. I'm going to assume that part of that city, getting its calibration could have been it. I'm not sure. But right now, let's talk about in the now. If that is still the case, it is not too late to chase dollars that are owned to us. You that if you have a bill collector, they're going to chase you for about what, 7 years to get their money to collect.
Oh, yeah.
We do the same. And we have to have that mindset that our citizens don't want to come out of pocket tax wise. Where's the money so they can fund our progress? So that's that. And the second thing is, there was a second part of your question about, I don't know if it points to I mentioned about the experience. For example, I'm not a financial person. I'm not, but I know a lot of people who are, and I do not make decisions on anybody's money without making sure that it's driven by data. I have for example, someone in my network who's a cost estimator. Learned so much from this guy. So apparently what project cost estimators do is they, instead of you getting a projection of cost for a build out for, say, the fire department, the fire headquarters, or the police headquarters, they come in and they make sure that they have machine learning to do this, right? They can synthesize, making sure that the cost that is given to the city for the project is as close to accurate as possible. So much so that they're with MARTA, the airport, what have you, because people have gotten hip to the fact that taxpayers are more knowledgeable now. They want to know, how did you come up with that number, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'll go back to what you said about, hey, if there's revenue that we're missing for projects, that's just one part of the puzzle. It's really looking at the whole financial examination of our city and figuring out, how to fix it together. We could all get together and that it could be a focus of Q1. It could be a Q1 focus, the money. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be, all what have you. It's really about, where do we generate economic development to pay for these projects? Where do we chase dollars in revenue that are, due to us, right?
Yeah.
Where do we generate the impact fees? Where do we stop the bleed in terms of costs and overspending, things that we don't need? It's just it's an exercise. You have to do it in your job. I know I do.
Right. And you do it in your own homes when you budget
In your own home.
your own homes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not
Exactly.
also saying there was a lot of turnover in there, and I don't know if that could have been the cause, but a forward-looking attitude is, hey, make that a priority, to your point, day one.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now we have two questions. I'm gonna unmute iPhone Cody. Please unmute yourself and you have the floor. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, I just heard you. You was just speaking, and you talked about the employee turnover. I'm a former employee at the city of South Fulton. I almost worked there maybe 3 years,
Yeah.
and I was in the finance department. I was actually the revenue manager.
Oh, good.
Like,
Okay.
what would you do to maybe strengthen like the employee relationships? Maybe try to cut the turnover rate. I left the city because of, bad conditions, work conditions. So just curious, what would you do to maybe try to, you know, help with the turnover rate at the city?
Well, relationships are key. I don't know your particular situation, Cody. And I know this is a forum, so I won't get into your business, but I could tell you there are systems in most jobs that ensure that the staff are feel safe, feel that they are heard, and that if there are any issues that are resolved in a healthy, systematic way. And if you left, that is, and I'm sorry to hear this, but there should have been a few things. There are different conditions by which you would have left, right? Maybe it was managerial relationship. Maybe it was personalities with others. I don't know what this, I can't give you a full coding of how to correct it, but I could tell you this, having staff events is very important. I don't know if you all did while you were there, where this gets to know each other, build relationships with the other. I don't care if it's a employee picnic, what have you, or potluck, so we don't spend everybody's money. You're right. But I like the idea of just making sure that we have policies in place that protect you, that you, and I don't know what your situation was, and whether or not you were able to take advantage of what those systems are. And without going into your business, I just, I just, my heart goes out to you. I know that I'll speak to me. I've worked in places where the whole premise of the company is care, right? Let's say a nonprofit. Our goal is to advocate for people, and the environment was a bit toxic. And I can tell you that even at the HR level, didn't feel heard, what have you. And, you know, escalating it beyond the HR level to the senior person, like that would be the city manager with, in your case. In my case, it was a CEO. These were all the things that I, you know, was able to employ to advocate for myself. I don't know if you were able to do the same. May I ask if you were follow those, that route, that journey?
You just knew not to do that. You know, if you did that,
Is it?
you'll have to deal with retaliation. So, a lot of people, you know, if they went against the city manager that I knew, I mean, I have people that I know, if they went against the city manager, they was out. So, and
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, maybe it's the person at the top that's causing the problems, but you know, but that's
Yeah.
just what my, that was just my question. So,
Well, in this particular case, and without bringing it in this particular case, the organization I was with unionized, and that's how they gathered together to advocate for themselves. That was how they landed. But the leaders, we weren't counted in that union. So, but for you, I will say this. I would want to make sure as an elected official, I can't interfere with staff business. There's the dividing line, but I would definitely want to make sure that once it became known to me that our staff was doing everything possible to make sure that you felt safe. And that means there should be programs. I've worked places where there were staff, employee resource groups of different types. There were health and wellness groups to make sure that you could gather with other people who may be feeling the same thing you do. And so I think for me, in that role, I may make that suggestion, but my role is, by charter, is to not interfere with the staff operations, but it doesn't hurt to just say, hey, we want a quality of work here that attracts the top talent. So in order to do that, we want to make sure that we have these programs in place that make it attractive for them to be here.
And just for the edification of the audience, can you explain why, as an elected official, you're not able to interfere with or get involved with staff issues?
It is in the charter. It's in the charter. There is a clear dividing line where of the role of the city council person and how we operate, and it's not to interfere with staff. That's very problematic. That is not to say that there is not interactions with staff. You know, I see it all the time, but you know, we cannot direct, guide, or interfere in the business of the staff. But that doesn't mean we can't, once it is brought to our attention, you know, make sure that our people are protected, because we still represent the city. And you, as whether you live in the city or not, you work in the city, which makes you a contributor to our quality of life. So making sure that even as a council person, that we come up with programs to make sure you feel that way, right?
Thank you so much for that. Now, we have a couple hands raised. We're going to start with Drew Demand. You have the floor. Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Drew Demand. I live in the 7th District. I'm one of these people who sees all of South Fulton as a city, and so I kind of look over at all districts in the city at large, as a whole. And so I would ask this of anyone running for any of our council positions or for mayor, what would be the sustainability, environmental, and human health goals that you see moving forward? And I particularly want that relating to development, the types of development that we are willing to allow next to our communities or in the middle of our communities. And what would you do to safeguard South Fulton's precious natural resources, that our agricultural lands that are quite valuable, and all too often are just going under the axe and getting paved and turned into warehouses?
Of course. And I recognize you from city council meetings and being very passionate and vocal about that. So one of the things that I have expressed is I would actually connect with sponsors like you in that space. You know, part of my role throughout my career is knowing that you're not the expert in all things, and there are people who are more steeped and knowledgeable about this area. So I would work with you. And there are a few others that I've spoken with that have been advocates for our environmental integrity. We are a better community. What makes people attracted to our city is the green space. We are green all over. And that's why my focus is on health, because we are already positioned to maintain that and maintain our green space. It's for our children. Okay, look at it. We're next to the world's busiest airport. So there's already that, right? And then there's going to be traffic congestion because of our hyper growth. So we have to be intentional about having healthy green spaces maintained. I can tell you this, with most economic development, many companies are looking for that. They're not, I'm not speaking about data centers and warehouses, but corporations, they do like the idea of having a headquarters that has walkable space for their employees, paths, green space, planting trees. So I would very much for their corridor that I'm pushing. I don't know if you were on a call earlier when I mentioned that I think our city by design, when you look at it from an eagle's eye view, is one rooted in health. And because we not only have the environmental space for it, I don't know, did I lose him? Where'd you go? Oh, there
Nope.
you are. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. So if we're talking about health, it starts with our environment and the air we breathe. So if we're going to build a bunch of things here, it should be in support of that. So I'll tell you, with me as a priority, I would want that. I love my city because I got neighbors here that I see on the call. They love walking. They love walking. They love biking. They love the green space. They love the air that they breathe. I don't want to change that. And any way that we have development, I would want them to make that top of mind, that there's a maintenance of that and the sustainability of that. What that looks like in real terms, I would like to talk with you and others on that, on what that vision could be.
I hear that. Thank you. And if I may just follow up briefly, to narrow down specifically to the warehouses and industrial development, we find very often that whether it's in planning commission or in city council, people are very vocal and very firm and strident in their opposition to warehouses and data centers.
Yeah.
And yet we have to, of course, city and be pragmatic in how we diversify the tax base, and shift the tax burden from residents. So if we were to do that creatively, do you see yourself as someone who would be more or less friendly to that kind of development, warehouses and industrial and data centers? Is that something you feel like you could fight off for us?
I believe yes, because I chose this area because it was green. I chose
Right.
where I live because I'm surrounded by green.
Yeah.
I chose the area because I do foresee myself as being a grandmother one day, and I want my grandkids to breathe healthy air. And so, this is my most precious investment is my home, and I want to protect that. So this is not some place that I'm living and I'm going to move somewhere else. So yes, that is something that I will fight. I do recognize that listen, we keep talking about data centers and warehouses because they're knocking at our door. They're what they call low-hanging fruit for revenue. But there are so many other corporations that are also knocking at our door at the state level. I'm telling you, it's maddening that, and some of them are small companies, some are mid-sized companies, some are large companies. And what I'm trying to tell you is we can pan out, look at our city, create that opportunity map from what's publicly owned, privately owned, look at the areas, look at the infrastructure and the environmental impact as well, Drew, and say, hey, I'm putting it out there. This is what I want. And I'm only saying it with emphasis in this call because when I knock on doors, this time I've knocked on a lot of doors, throughout the city. When I mention healthcare as a corridor, it resonates with people. Whether you're a senior citizen, whether you're a family, it makes sense to have that here. We're a medical desert, and where a medical desert is concerned, you want an environmentally friendly area. You don't want to be even more sick by polluting the air, right? If we don't have a hospital, the last thing you want is anything that could have an environmental impact to worsen it. So I would advocate for other corporations to be that would be more environmentally friendly.
Thank you
You
so
there?
much. Thank you so much for that. We have a hand raised from Jane. Jane, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Rashad. So, Miss Dow, you touched
Yeah.
on someone right before Mr. Drew there about employees being mistreated as workers. So you kind of touched on union in a little bit. So how do you feel? Because I don't think the city of South Fulton is unionized. So how do you feel about the city of South Fulton being unionized, and would you be in agreement with it?
Well, look, one of the things we did was we had a before we got to the union, we had the collective bargaining agreement where we went through the exercises at this organization where I was. I do think that before you even go down that route, one of the most important things you always have in your is evaluating where there is a city that has one and how effective that was. Did that help alleviate the issues with the culture? Did that help alleviate the issues with HR retaliation? So before you go down the route of doing that, I would absolutely make sure that you look at other cities of our scale, see if they have that, and is that the actual solution? I have no problem with them unionizing, but at the very base, no matter where you work, it should be a safe place to work. It's not lost on me that some of the people who are every company by law has to have certain things in place from an HR perspective to protect people. At the end of the day, there has to be accountability, right? A boss has a boss has a boss has a boss, and it all rolls up. And so there are reviews. I like the idea of, hey, if the culture is a problem, if fear of retaliation is a problem, there has to be a citywide staff reviews That review comes back and you have, you know, a majority feedback that's saying the same thing, and you have, you know, some actual written feedback on situations that needs to be investigated, that needs to be researched, and needs to be addressed. And so I don't know if Cody's still on the line, but if there is a citywide, I don't know if you all did that. Did you have a citywide review of your peers and leaders? That alone could help. But to answer your question, I'm looking for you. Yes, I don't have a problem with the unionizing, but I absolutely still think a policy in place is key, and having the system of evaluating the treatment of people. Do they feel safe? Do they feel supported? Do they feel that they are in a merit-based environment? And the qualitative feedback and the quantitative feedback can help you make the right decision or the right people in place.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you so much.
Ms.
Thank you.
Dow, I wanted to do a quick time check. We're right at 8:15 and we have to do a hard stop at 8:30. And we want to give you 3 to 5 minutes to do your closing remarks. So if we can just speed things along, and I had a question, but I'm going to yield to the other two.
Okay.
Ms. Ellen Miller Mapp, if you'll go ahead and ask your question.
Ms. Mapp, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
Miss Ellen? You're on mute.
Please unmute yourself. There you go. Oh, you were unmuted.
Here we go. Let's hope it stays. I'm having technical issues right now. Thank you, Ms. Dowell, for being with us. And I'm going to try to ask my questions fast. I have a few. You mentioned earlier that the developers that are knocking on our doors are interested in building warehouses and data centers. But what do you think the economic development is doing to make our city attractive to entertainment and hotels and fine dining? I think a great idea would be to plan for an entertainment center or two, where we would have hotels and other attractions in our cities, where we would not just be attracting warehouses. Those are also ways that we can build commerce in our communities. Also, being that we have many places throughout the cities where we do not have continuous sidewalks, which is part of the need for more healthcare. But the sidewalk issues creates danger for many people, particularly seniors who might be using assisted devices, wheelchairs and walkers and so forth, where they may have to step off to the street to continue their walking. And this is not happening fast enough. I know there's a lot of things involved in getting funding for those sidewalks. What are your thoughts on those two issues?
Well, part of that door knocking I mentioned was presenting ideas like you just said. I have actually gone to different, what we call food hall experiences throughout Metro Atlanta. Those appear to be trending very well. Their gathering spaces are not disruptive, and having them strategically located in different parts of our city makes sense, because these are like community gathering places where young people go, as like even little kids. They have a little playground around them. You've heard of Ironworks as one. Lee White is one. There's one in Ashford Dunwoody, but they're very nice. They promote small businesses. They promote diversity in dining and shopping options. They're entertainment spaces where our young people who are teenagers can go, and that can also potentially, we hope, reduce crime, because they could be there doing something, building memories with each other versus, I don't mind, devil's playground situations. So I like the idea of strategically placed food halls. These are areas that can also be near mixed use developments, live, work, play, and do business, right? So I wholly agree with that. But I think having just one place is not going to be helpful because I have seniors that don't like, or I'm that senior that don't like to drive at night. So having something closer to my zone makes sense. So having strategically placed entertainment centers like food halls. Uh, and these food halls don't just serve food. They have different things in there that are, where people can perform and things like that. They're pretty neat. And they also have green space, Drew. Some of them have, on the belt line and things like that. To answer your second question, I really would like our city to be similar to Peachtree City in having this whole connected community concept. I like the idea of making those improvements just not to the sidewalks, but also to the lighting. Because and I know that some of that work is already in play. I've attended some meetings, so I'm hearing that there's certain areas that they're targeting now. But ultimately, by the time we're 10 years old, it would be great for, yes, at night on a nice fall day for our seniors to be able to walk from one community to the other, similar to, how the Silver Comet takes you all the way to Alabama?
Yeah.
It would be great if city of South Fulton had connected communities where Amherst is an easy, safe walk to Walden Park, and Walden Park is a easy, safe walk to Twin Shoals. We are close enough in proximity that if we construct the right sidewalks systems safely and lit, that this will be if we're the place to be now, it would be absolutely so if there's safe, connected walking paths that connects us all. Because imagine you're 18 years old, you're going to go see your girlfriend, probably not the best example, but you walk to the community to see her safely without seeing these trucks whipping by, past you. You're a senior citizen, you want to go visit someone, you may want to, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I love the golf cart concept. But you got to, crawl before you walk. But the sidewalks are key. We have walkable citizens. I have people on this line now that I know that walk daily. They whether they're seniors or not, they want this, and we should be, because they are a loud voice with it. We should be very intentional about prioritizing strengthening our sidewalks and our streets. Where there are that need to be improved. We met with DOT yesterday at a town hall by the current Councilwoman Gums, which was very informative. So there's a lot coming. So stay tuned. But yes, I'm on board with you on your first question, having entertainment complexes like food halls strategically placed throughout the city of South Fulton, and secondly, having a connected sidewalk system to other neighborhoods.
Yeah, and I was also thinking a little bit grander than food halls. I'm thinking of dining and hotels, fine dining. So we would have a better mix of entertainment and it can be in several areas, but I know that's long term. But something grander that will attract people even into the city who does not live here.
No, I get what you're saying. For me, I can tell you, the first thing I gotta do is, listen to the people and what they want. I have exercised that by asking questions, and many of them have expressed they want more diverse dining, shopping options. Not many have mentioned the hotels. I think for our city, mainly when I'm looking at District 2, I haven't envisioned a hotel in District 2, particularly I can see in High Point, not High Point, Old National area and things like that. But in District 2, I haven't quite envisioned it yet, admittedly, Ellen. I'll make sure I think more about that. But if we did, it would absolutely have to be a boutique hotel. I would like the idea of, something that's more intimate than large scale, like a large Marriott. I don't think we're built for that. To Drew's point, we don't want to create too much havoc when it comes to the traffic systems that come here. It's a gradual, smart growth build. So maybe after we fix a lot of the things infrastructure wise, like those sidewalks and traffic lights and things like that, perhaps beyond the 10, we should look at that. Because guess what? FIFA's coming, right? And
Yes,
you see how many hotels that they built in 12 days to make sure that happened. They're spread out all over. And if you're near airport, people will naturally, flight attendants would use it, pilots would use it,
that's,
yeah.
yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, can you go into your closing remarks?
I can.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
I would like to say thank you so much to everyone who took time out of your evening to join me tonight. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the questions. I am running to be your next District 2 South Fulton council person. I'm running because I do have the collaborative spirit. I am intentional about working through crisis. This is my expertise as my small business. I'm bringing a fresh new charge to the city. Everybody's asking for new, different. That's what you're going to get with me. My background is in change management. I'm hired by companies to come in, evaluate, listen, and transform them. I've done it with General Motors. I'm doing it right now with the third largest poultry company in North America. This is my superpower. Working well with others, getting the job done. And part of that is listening to what you just said, Ellen, listening to what you said, Drew, and really coming up with a plan that works, that's also data driven. At the end of the day, early voting is October 14th through the 31st, I think. When you make your decision, make sure you pick someone who is actually a student of government. They understand it. Make sure it's people who have the relationships day one that they can call upon, who trust them to get the work done. Make sure you have people who can speak to impact, not just being in a job for many years, but what impact they've done. In my case, I have brought thousands of jobs to Georgia. You can Google this. Home Fresh came to Georgia. My name's on that press release. 1,200 jobs. Georgia's GM's Innovation Center that was in Roswell, also thousands of jobs. So what you all want, Ellen, it costs money. And you need to attract the dollars to pay for the things we desire for a better quality of life. I believe I'm that person. I know I'm that person that could bring that fresh and best charge to this city. And so I look forward to meeting you if I have not already. And again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I look forward to it, to being the lead. Thank you. I love all the claps.
Ms.
Let's
Dowell,
go.
thank you.
Let's go.
Ms. Dowell, thank you so much for participating and joining. I know it's kind of late, but I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you, Ms. Doris Clark, for agreeing to participate and moderate as well.
Thank you, Doris.
I put the Zoom link in the chat for the next meeting. We do have a meeting starting at 8:35 tonight, right after this one with Dr. Joy Treadwell, and she is also running for District 2. Please hang on after Dr. Treadwell is completed with her presentation, because we have a special announcement regarding the District 2 race that will impact that race. So we look forward to seeing you on the next Zoom meeting. Please log into that Zoom meeting that I put into the chat. Thank you, everybody. And best of luck to you throughout the campaign, Ms. Dowell.
Thank you.
We are built for better.
Thank you. I love